I used to think hunger sounded like an empty stomach. In our house, it sounded like a sentence. Be grateful we feed you. My mother said it the first time when I was 11 and wanted seconds of biryani. She said it again when I was 16 and asked if I could join a school trip I'd saved for. And she said it most recently last Tuesday night with steam from the doll curling into her face like a veil and the fluorescent kitchen lights sharpening the edges of her mouth. Be grateful we feed you, Mom said, sliding a dented steel plate in front of me like an invoice. Some children your age feed their parents. I stared at the plate. 3 spoonfuls of rice, a ladle of dal, a lemon wedge turned hard. My brother Bilal snickered. Miriam, my older sister, flexed her new French-tipped nails around her water glass, letting them glint. Kareem, my stepfather, sat stiff at the table. Like a policeman off duty, no one ate until he ate. No one talked unless Mom was baiting someone. I do feed you, I said quietly. I pay for the staples every month. Her eyes cut to me. You pay for the staples because you live here. Ion, because your presence increases our bills. Be grateful we feed you. There it was, again like a sign on a fence. Like a warning, you learn to read even if you don't know the alphabet the first time you see it. I bit down on the reply that rose in my throat. Say nothing. Finish your food. Go upstairs. Keep going. That was the strategy I had taught myself in the dark hours between midnight and 3 a.m. When the only light was my laptop screen and the only voice that felt like mine was the one that typed. Bilal jabbed me with his elbow. Eat, Ion. Your rice is getting cold. He enjoys it cold, Mom said. That way, he can complain later. I scooped the rice into my mouth, the grains clumping like someone had wrung them out with their hands. The trick was chewing slowly, counting to 5 between bites, letting the noise in my head quiet into numbers. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could feel Maryam's gaze on me, a mixture of pity and a kind of pleased distance. The way someone might look at a stray dog who follows them home but knows better than to come inside. Anyway, Mom continued, satisfied that I was eating. Saturday is Maryam's engagement dinner. Everyone is bringing something. Ion, you'll be the one serving since you have time. I'm working Saturday, I said. I kept my voice neutral. Mr. Dalton had put me down for a double at the warehouse. It's 10 hours of sorting, boxing, and making sure scanners didn't crash. 10 hours where no one said, be grateful they just told you to move faster. I can help Friday night. I can cook. Mom laughed a short, dry sound. Cook with what? You know how to burn onions and that's all. I can cook, I said, and felt the heat rise up my neck. Don't push. Okay, I can make the kebabs. And the raita. We don't need your kebabs, she said. We need your hands to carry trays. We need your mouth to smile. We need your body to do something useful for once. Kareem cleared his throat in that way he does when he wants to make it seem like he's moderating while choosing a side with his silence. Ion, your mother is asking you for one evening, he said, eyes on his phone. Family is first. Family in our house meant a stage. It meant you knew your lines, hit your marks, smiled at the right moments, and accepted your role no matter how much it itched your skin. Mom was the director, keeping score with favors and debts. Kareem was the principal donor who believed that. Paying the electric bill bought him the right to be consulted on feelings. Maryam was the prima ballerina, glamorous, gentle in public, merciless in rehearsals. Billo was the jester, always too quick to laugh at a joke if it kept him from being the punchline. And me. I was the understudy no one wanted to see on stage. I'll be there, I said. Because it was simpler than explaining the math I had been living with for 2 years. That one day of overtime meant $27 after tax. That $27 times for weekends bought the domain, name and server space I needed. That what I was building in the midnight hours might be my way out. Keep your head down. Keep the code neat. Keep the receipts. Mom waved her hand. Good. Be grateful we feed you, she added, as if the thought had scratched her from the inside and needed to get out again. I washed my own plate afterward, because if I left it in the sink, I'd hear about it for 3 days. The dishwater was gray and warm, the kind of temperature that makes your fingers soft and your mind float. I pictured the screen waiting upstairs in my room, the dark window with lines of text like a language that didn't yell at me. I pictured the spreadsheet with columns labeled in careful caps. Client, SKU, location, time in, time O, UT. I pictured the dip in the graph last Wednesday when the scanner at Dock C glitched and orders backed up for an hour. How I stayed late to reboot it while Mr. Dalton berated the line workers for slacking. No one else saw the pattern. I did, and I had been turning it into a system one night at a time until I could show someone who mattered. Be grateful, I muttered, wiping the counter. The phrase had turned into a mosquito in my head, whining. At the edges of everything, be grateful you breathe. Be grateful you have eyes. Be grateful you aren't worse. My gratitude had teeth by now, and sometimes it bit back at the wrong moments. Upstairs, my room smelled faintly of stale coffee and that lemon cleaner I bought last month when I decided if I couldn't control the house, I could control my space. My bed was pressed against the wall. My desk faced the window with a view of the neighbor's washing line. I closed the door and leaned against it. Okay, inhale, exhale. You have 3 hours until your eyes start burning. I clicked the laptop. Opened the rectangle of light, made the room look honest. No family portraits, no trophies of anyone else's accomplishments, no stairs. Just the keyboard and me. The dashboard loaded. A neat grid. Colors coded to cooldown times and choke points. I loved this part, the hum of the fan. The curve of a plot line smoothing under my fingers, the way logic held when human voices didn't quiver. I had named it because it stored arrows, little fixes, predictive nudges, alerts that pricked. Just hard enough to wake you before a problem turned into a fire. On the right, a tab with notes from my part-time job at Grayline Logistics. The place where Mr. Dalton called us by our last names like the sound of it should make us ashamed of ourselves. I was a temp associate, which meant I did anything that needed hands. But at night, when the floor was quieter and the last truck had backed away from the bay, I watched the data trickle into the system and thought, what if someone paid attention to where the water pooled? My phone lit up beside the laptop. A text. From Maryam, don't be weird Saturday. Wear the blue shirt. The black one makes you look like you're trying too hard. I typed, then erased. What would be the point? She didn't send texts to talk. She sent them like commands. I put the phone face down. A soft ping. An email. Subject line. Your proposal quiver. My chest went tight. I had sent it. 1 week ago to the only person at Grayline who had ever spoken to me like I wasn't furniture, the operations VP, who'd come down to the floor once during a meltdown. Ms. Collins, high heels. Real questions, a look in her eyes like she was running math at all times. I had watched her stare at the frozen scanners and ask me, if you were me, what would you fix first? And I had told her, mouth dry, hands stuttering in the air. The way our trailers were scheduled by habit, not by demand. The way our returns data lived on a Google sheet no one trusted. The way our night shift was staffed by whatever bodies clocked in rather than the people who knew Dock C's scanner always lied when there was humidity. She had nodded. Interesting. Then she left. 6 days later, I sent her a letter in the middle of the night. I attached a video of Quiver running on dummy data. I told her I could deploy it on a test lane in 1 weekend if she gave me access. I told her I wasn't looking for a raise. I'm looking for a chance, I wrote, and hit send with both hands because they were shaking. Now, her name in my inbox. I opened the email, short, clipped. Ion saw the demo, smart, come by my office Friday at 3 p.m. and bring whatever. You need to set up a pilot. Don't share this with anyone yet. See? I exhaled so hard my vision blotted at the edges. I pressed my palms to my eyes until patterns bloomed. Friday at 3. I had to trade shifts, line up permissions, pretend. It was routine to be summoned upstairs. I could hear my mother's voice in my head already preempting my absence with a lecture. If you think your little computer thing is an excuse to skip your sister's big day, but Friday wasn't Saturday. Friday I could make happen. I wrote back one word, confirmed, because anything more felt like I'd reveal how much I needed it. I scaled the curves of my code again, smoothing variables, shaving milliseconds. Making notes in a separate document labeled pitch. Then I sat back and looked around my room like a tourist who had just noticed he'd been sleeping in a museum of his own survival. The blue shirt Miriam insisted on hung from the wardrobe door like it was listening. The first time Mom told me to be grateful, it was a joke. Or I thought it was. We were new to the city then, 4 rooms and a bathroom that had a door you had to lift, to close. Dad had died 3 years earlier and left us memories plus a loan. Mom married Kareem for stability. He married her because she didn't ask him about his past. We were poor in a way that made light bulbs a luxury. Mom would fry eggplant on the one good burner and call it deluxe. We laughed because laughter made the scraps feel candlelit. Be grateful we feed you, she said the night she split. The last orange between 4 hands. We all grinned with pith stuck in our teeth. It stopped being a joke the night Miriam got into nursing school and Mom threw a party that swallowed our rent money. Be grateful we feed you, she told me. When I asked if we had enough to cover Kareem's loan payment, your sister will make it back. It became a mantra the day I told Mom I didn't want to apply for finance like Kareem suggested. I wanted to build things. I wanted to make mistakes that weren't the predictable kind. She stared at me, like I had confessed to arson. Be grateful we fed you, she said, because in her mind, past tense made it nobler. Don't burn what we built. What we built. It was always a we I wasn't part of when it came to credit and A. You when it came to blame. If I washed the car or tutored Billow's friend in math, no one noticed. If I forgot bread, it was a referendum on my character. You're sulking, Bilal said that Thursday as he sprawled on my bed uninvited, tossing a stress ball in the air. He was 18, still a carbonated version of himself, fizzing with whatever emotion bubbled up first. A time coding, I said without looking away from the screen. How's your little side hustle? He teased, the stress ball thumping into his palm. Going to make an app that cooks dinner so Mom can be grateful to you. I almost smiled. Maybe. It grew serious for a beat. Hey, for what it's worth, she shouldn't have said that. It's a feeding thing. She said worse. Yeah, but I don't know. He shrugged words beyond him. He was young enough that loyalty still felt like a blanket you could throw over any mess. Saturday's going to be big. Don't start anything, okay? I'm not the one who starts things. He chucked the stress ball at me. I caught it with my left hand without looking. Show off, he muttered, and left. Friday morning, I texted Mr. Dalton that I had a meeting with Ops. He called me immediately. Meeting with who? He demanded, like I had accused him of cheating on a test. Ms. Collins, I said. She emailed me. Ms. Collins doesn't meet with line associates, he snapped. I don't make things up. I forwarded him the email, then held the phone away from my ear to avoid swallowing his silence. When he spoke again, his voice had that tinny, respectful sheen people put on like cologne. Fine, go. But I need you back on the floor by 6. We have a rush truck. Yes, sir, I said, because there are wars you win and wars you walk past. On my way out the door, Mom stopped me. She had a dish towel in one hand and the phone pressed between shoulder and cheek. Yes. Layla, she said sweetly into the receiver. Course the guests will be seated by 8. No, Ion is useless. I'll have Miriam. She looked at me and covered the mouthpiece. Where are you going? There's prep to do. I have a meeting, I said. The confidence I'd cultivated alone began to shrink like fabric. In hot water with my boss. Your boss. She sounded delighted in the way people sound when their favorite show introduces a plot twist they don't believe. What for? Did you break something? It's about a system I built. A system, she repeated, savoring the word like it was overcooked. Systems don't feed families. Ion, hands do. I'll be home for dinner, I said, and moved past her before the towel could become a flag waved at my retreat. Behind me, I heard her voice smile back into the phone. Sorry, Layla. Children, be grateful. We feed them, right? Bus ride to Grayland took 40 minutes. The sun was a blade, slicing heat into the metal poles. I stood because sitting meant standing later with pins in my thighs. I rehearsed what I would say to Ms. Collins. I imagined her office, glass walls, a view of the parking lot like a chessboard. I imagined her saying, "We'll give you 2 weeks to try this," and my calendar filling with blocks of time that had meaning. I can do this. I know where the water pools. I touched the edge of my notebook in my pocket the way someone might check a passport. Grayline's building always smelled like a mixture of coffee, toner, and effort. The elevator mirrored. My face back at me. One cowlick that didn't listen. A jaw a little too tight. On the 4th floor, the carpet changed texture. People wore shoes that didn't squeak. I walked past a glass conference room where 2 men in shirts. I couldn't afford argued about throughput like it was a person who owed them money. I knocked on Ms. Collins's door. Come, she said, without looking up, voice clipped like her emails. She had a stack of paper in front of her and a laptop open to a dashboard that made my hands itch to fix the fonts. Ion, I said. Hi. Thank you for... She looked up. Her eyes were lighter than I remembered. You brought your laptop? She asked. Yes. Good. Show me. There are moments you remember not because of what happened, but because of what didn't happen. Ms. Collins didn't ask me to justify my existence. She didn't quiz me on my title. She said, show me. And I did. I unfolded the narrative I had spent a year writing in code. I showed her how Quiver flagged the anomalies before they became outages, how it predicted when Doc C would fail, based on humidity and staffing patterns, how it suggested reordering sequences to shave 5 minutes off a cycle without anyone working harder. I talked like I had been underwater for months and had just found air. She nodded, interrupting only to clarify an acronym or a dependency. When I finished, she leaned back and let out a breath through her nose like a person whose chore had just been shortened. This is good, she said. Rough, but good. Make a list of what you need to pilot this on lane 7 tonight. I'll have IT give you temporary access. She glanced at the clock. We go live Monday. If your thing reduces delays by even 10%, I will find you a badge with a different color. A badge, I repeated, hearing how small I sounded. A different job. She translated briskly. And a different paycheck? Clear? I nodded. Don't smile. Don't embarrass yourself. Clear. She stood, and I stood too. She held the door open. Oh, and Ion. Yes, good work. Was 2 words, but they fit in places I hadn't realized were empty. I left her office, walking like the floor had been adjusted to meet me. Down the hall, Mr. Dalton was whispering to a man from inventory. He saw me and straightened. Everything in order? He asked, the old tone trying and failing to creep back in. Yes, I said. Ms. Collins asked me to compile an access list for IT, right? He said as if he had always known this would happen. On the bus home, I stared out the window and watched the city wash past. Little shops with shuttered fronts, kids dragging their backpacks, a woman in a purple scarf shouting into her phone with laughter. I thought of Saturday and the trays and the smiling. I thought of Miriam's engagement and the way Mom would hold court as if she'd orchestrated the sky. I thought of the sentence I knew would come sometime between the first toast and the second dessert. Be grateful we feed you. And I thought of the way Ms. Collins had said, good work, and how it had made my body feel like a house with lights finally turned on in every room. At home, the kitchen was a battlefield dressed as anticipation. Trays leaned like soldiers. Against the counter, The fridge held an army of marinated chickens waiting for the oven. Mom was on the phone again, arranging chairs with her voice. Yes, yes, no, not the plastic ones, Layla. We're not cheap. She glanced at me without seeing and barked, "Take the garbage out," as if my presence had reminded her of something unclean. I tied the bag and hefted it, the weight not heavy, but not light either. A perfect summary of my station. Outside, the air was dramatically ordinary, the way ordinary can feel when something inside you has tilted. The neighbor's washing line snapped in the wind. A dog 3 houses down announced my exit like the news mattered to someone. On my way back in, my phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: Pilot Approval Lane 7. And then a calendar invite titled Kickoff, Quiver. I stared at it, the words looking both too big and too small on the screen. Monday, 9 a.m. The invite list included names I only knew from rumors. IT lead, floor manager, ops, analyst, and one name at the bottom, Dalton. I swallowed. He'll be there. I pictured his face when Ms. Collins introduced me, the way the sound in the room might shift when my name carried weight. "Stop standing by the door like a stray," Mom called. "We're not running a shelter. If you're going to be here, be useful." She moved past me, her perfume a sweet, cloying cloud, her bangles clinking like applause. "I'll chop the onions," I said. "How kind," she replied without looking. "Be grateful we feed you." I set the cutting board on the counter and began to slice. I kept my eyes on the onion, on the knife, on the thin satisfaction of a clean cut. I let the sting wash through and out, the way pain sometimes does when you don't fight it. I imagined the moment Monday when someone might call me by my first name without turning it into a question mark. I imagined absurdly someone calling me sir because of a job I had done well, because respect can be a reflex when power is in the room. The thought startled me. I almost laughed. Don't be dramatic, Ion. But the image warmed me like a secret. Saturday would come with its trays and its speeches and its familiar humiliations delivered like wedding favors. And Monday would come, with a room where what I built mattered more than the surface facts of me. I stood faster, Mom snapped, and I quickened my hands. The onions fell in perfect half moons, whispering against the knife. The house had never smelled so expensive. Garlic and ginger clung to the walls. Chickens sizzled in the oven. And the scent of cardamom drifted through the hallways like a promise. Mom had been preparing for days, snapping at anyone who slowed her rhythm. Now, on Saturday evening, the place looked like a theater set. White tablecloths over borrowed tables, strings of golden fairy lights clipped against peeling walls, trays of food stacked like trophies. It was Miriam's engagement dinner, but you'd think it was the coronation of a queen. "Move that vase to the left," Mom barked at me the moment I came downstairs in the blue shirt Miriam had ordered me to. "Where?" "No, not there left. Do you even know your directions? Sometimes I wonder how you function at work." I lifted the vase and shifted it 2 inches. "That's too much," she snapped. "Back half an inch. A child could do this." I bit the inside of my cheek. "Don't react. Not tonight." Miriam swept down the stairs then, dressed in a deep red gown that shimmered under the lights. She looked like a magazine cover come to life, every strand of hair in place, lips painted to match her dress. Behind her, Billo whistled. "You look fire, sis," he said, grinning. "Obviously," she replied, adjusting her earrings. Then she glanced at me and wrinkled her nose. "Ion, tuck your shirt in. You look sloppy. You want to embarrass me?" "It's tucked," I said softly. "Not properly." She rolled her eyes and moved past me like I was a piece of furniture. Guests began to arrive soon after. Uncles in pressed kurta pajamas, aunts in glittering saris, neighbors in shiny suits that smelled faintly of mothballs. Laughter and chatter filled the house, and suddenly the air was heavy with perfume and judgment. I carried trays back and forth like a waiter, balancing samosas, kebabs, and bowls of chutney. Each time I passed the living room, I caught snatches of conversation. Miriam is so accomplished, Aunt Salma gushed, patting Mom's hand. Beautiful mashallah, you've raised her so well. Mom smiled the smile she saved for guests. She's our pride. Everything we do is for her. And what about Ion? Another relative asked casually. The smile froze, then thinned. Oh, Ion. Well, he's still figuring things out. Not everyone can be a star, you know. Some are background. Laughter. Not cruel, just careless. But it lodged in me like a shard of glass. I lowered the tray onto the buffet table and stepped back, my ears ringing. Later, when I bent to collect empty glasses, Uncle Bashir chuckled. Ion, you're good at this. Maybe catering is your true calling? The room laughed again, and I forced a smile while stacking cups. They don't even realize. They're cutting you open. To them, it's just banter. Dinner was served in waves. I ferried platters of biryani and lamb curry to the guests while Mom hovered, orchestrating who got what, always making sure Miriam's plate was perfect first. Don't spill, Mom hissed when I leaned forward to place a dish. If you embarrass me tonight, I swear I won't, I whispered. But as I moved back, Billo stuck out his foot under the table. My knee buckled and the edge of the platter tipped. A spoonful of curry sloshed onto the white tablecloth. The gasp was collective. Mom's eyes went wide, then narrowed into slits. Ion. She snapped, loud enough for everyone to hear. Are you blind? Do you have two left hands? Heat flushed my face. I grabbed a napkin, dabbing at the stain. Sorry it slipped. Sorry. Mom laughed sharply, a sound like broken glass. Always sorry, never competent. Is why I don't trust you with anything important. The relatives chuckled awkwardly. Some shook their heads. Miriam sighed theatrically, dabbing at her dress even though nothing had touched it. Just go stand in the corner, Mom ordered. At least there you can't ruin anything. I froze. The room had gone quieter, every eye flicking toward me before quickly away, as though my humiliation was contagious. I can still serve, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You've done enough, she snapped. Go! So I stood by the wall, useless, while laughter and chatter resumed as though nothing had happened. My plate was empty. No one remembered to feed the waiter. As the evening stretched, I drifted in and out of conversations like a ghost. Guests congratulated Miriam, praised Kareem for being such a generous stepfather, complimented Mom on her perfect family. Perfect! I swallowed the word like poison. When the cake was brought out, a 3-tier confection with gold icing, Mom called everyone to gather. She took the microphone Dad's friend had lent for speeches. Tonight, she declared, we celebrate our shining star, our Miriam, who has made us proud in every way. She is beautiful, smart, and destined for greatness. We're so blessed. Applause. And of course, she added, smiling sweetly, we couldn't have done it without Kareem, who has provided for us like a true father. And Bilal, who always keeps us laughing. Another round of applause. Then her eyes found me. The smile sharpened. And Ion, she said. A pause, as though searching for words. Well, Ion is here, and we're grateful for that, aren't we? Laughter rippled through the room, hesitant at first, then louder. I stood frozen, my face burning, my chest hollow. Be grateful. Always be grateful. I forced a thin smile, but inside something cracked. I wanted to shout, to throw the microphone across the room, to tell them that while they mocked me, I was building something real, that I wasn't useless. That on Monday, people would see me differently, but the words curdled on my tongue. Instead, I lowered my gaze, letting the humiliation wash over me in front of everyone I'd ever known. Mom raised her glass. To Miriam, the crowd echoed. To Miriam. And Iselin. Invisible lifted nothing at all. The night of Miriam's engagement ended the way it always did. Mom glowing in the afterlight of admiration. Miriam basking in compliments, Billa laughing too loudly at jokes that weren't funny, and me packing away leftovers in greasy foil containers, stacking dirty plates in towers, sweeping confetti from the floor. By midnight, the guests had gone. The music faded, the fairy lights unplugged, the house smelled of cardamom and exhaustion. Mom passed by me, her heels clicking, her sari draped like victory. "You embarrassed me tonight," she said flatly, not even slowing her steps. "You should be grateful people laughed it off. Go to bed." I stood in the empty dining room, a rag in my hand, staring at the curry stain on the tablecloth that refused to vanish. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped the insides out with a spoon. This is who I am to them. A servant. A shadow. I climbed upstairs quietly, shut my door, and turned on my laptop. The screen lit up, and for the first time all day, something inside me unclenched. I checked my inbox out of habit, and there it was. My heart thudded. I clicked. Ion, the system went live on lane 7 tonight. 0 outages. Processing speed increased by 18%. IT and floor managers are impressed. Come to my office Monday morning. Bring your notes. See? 18%. I read the line 3 times. My breath shallow. That wasn't just improvement. That was revolution. I leaned back, pressing my palms to my eyes. This is it. This is the proof. For once, the laughter from downstairs didn't echo in my skull. For once, their words didn't matter. Because somewhere in a warehouse, humming with machines and forklifts, my code, my work had changed the rhythm of hundreds of hands. The air at Greyline buzzed differently. Workers glanced up as I passed, some whispering. Mr. Dalton avoided. My eyes, his jaw tight. My stomach twisted with nerves. But under it all, a current of steady pride pulled me forward. When I reached the 4th floor, the carpet muffled my steps. I stopped outside Miss Collins's office, wiped my palms on my shirt, and knocked. "Come in." She looked up as I entered. "Ion, sit." I obeyed, clutching my notebook. Oh, gee. Tapped a report on her desk. "Your system worked. Better than expected. 18% throughput increase. No delays. IT is calling it the smoothest shift in months." My throat went dry. That's great." She gave me a thin smile. Great is one word. Cost saving is another. Do you know what 18% means in dollars? I shook my head. 6 figures a quarter, she said crisply. And that's just lane 7. If this scales, we're talking millions. Millions. The word hit me like a stone dropped in water, rippling outward. "I want you to present this to senior management next week," she continued. "You'll need to clean up your documentation, prepare visuals, and be ready for questions. I'll back you, but you'll be leading." "Me?" The word cracked. "Yes, you. It's your system." She leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Don't undersell yourself, Ion. You see patterns others miss. That's valuable." And from today, she reached into a drawer, pulled out a new badge, and slid it across the desk. "You're no longer a temp associate. Congratulations. You're promoted to Junior Operations Analyst." I stared at the badge. It gleamed under the fluorescent light. My name. A new title, a new color stripe. "Thank you," I whispered. "Earn it," she replied briskly. Then she stood. "Come with me. There's someone I want you to meet." We walked into the large conference room where the floor managers were gathered. They looked up, murmuring. Mr. Dalton was there, pale, his tie askew. "This," Ms. Collins announced, "is Ion. He developed the system we piloted on lane 7. You can thank him for the smoothest weekend shift you've had in months." The managers murmured their approval. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with graying hair, extended his hand. "Good work, son." And then not happened. "Sir," he added with a nod. Sir, the word struck me harder than any insult ever. Had my whole life, "be grateful we feed you," had reduced me to nothing. But here, in this room filled with authority and power, A man I barely knew looked me in the eye and called me sir. I swallowed hard, gripping his hand. Don't cry. Not here. Ms. Collins turned to Dalton. We'll be expanding the pilot. Ion will be working closely with your team to oversee deployment. Dalton's mouth twitched. Of course, he said tightly. Whatever you need, sir, sir. Again, this time from Dalton's lips, bitter as vinegar. I felt my spine straighten, my chest expand. For the first time, I wasn't the shadow in the room. I was the reason it was lit. That evening, when I returned home, the house was still buzzing with post-engagement chatter. Mom sat with relatives. Miriam beside her like a queen on a throne, Bilal cracking jokes, Kareem nodding with false gravitas. There he is, Mom said when I entered. The waiter. Did you enjoy your day off, Ion? The relatives laughed politely. I opened my mouth to speak, then stopped. In my pocket, the new badge pressed against my palm. Ms. Collins's words echoed. Don't undersell yourself. Actually, I said slowly, it was a good day. Oh, Mom arched a brow. Did you manage not to spill anything? Laughter again. I smiled faintly, but inside the fire burned steady. Not yet, not tonight. But soon they'll see. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I thought of the word sir. How strange it sounded, how foreign, yet how right. It wasn't about power or arrogance. It was about recognition, about being seen as a person of value, not a burden. And I knew then the humiliation I endured at Miriam's engagement wouldn't be the final word, because the world outside this house was beginning to call me something different. And one day soon, so would they. Monday morning's meeting was only the beginning. Over the next week, Quiver rolled out across 3 more lanes, and the numbers spoke louder than any words I could have said. Throughput rose, delays vanished, and for the first time in months, managers weren't barking at workers about lost minutes. I think they were nodding, smiling, even shaking my hand in the hall. By Friday, Ms. Collins called me into her office again. Senior management is impressed, she said, sliding a folder toward me. We're hosting a showcase dinner for our partners next weekend. I want you to present Quiver. Your system is saving us a fortune, and they need to hear it from the source, a dinner. My throat tightened. Yes, investors, executives, board members. It's an opportunity. You'll prepare slides and you'll speak. I'll introduce you, but the floor will be yours. She leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Don't think of yourself as the kid carrying trays anymore. Think of yourself as the reason people get fed. Her words hit me harder than I let show. The reason people get fed? When I got home that evening, Mom was on the phone bragging about Mariam's new engagement ring. She didn't even glance at me as I slipped inside. But Billa noticed. Why are you smiling like that? He asked. Suspiciously. Nothing, I said, slipping the badge from my pocket and turning it in my fingers. His eyes widened. Y2 got promoted. I nodded. Damn. He whistled low. Mom's not going to like that. He was right. Later that night, her reaction wasn't pride. Was suspicion. An analyst. She repeated, frowning. That sounds temporary. And what's this nonsense about you giving a presentation? You'll embarrass yourself? Maybe, I said quietly. Or maybe I won't. She scoffed and turned away. But the seed was planted. The banquet hall shimmered with crystal chandeliers and polished floors. Waiters in black vests moved between tables, pouring wine and balancing silver trays. The air buzzed with the murmur of wealth and influence. And at the center of it all, I stood in a suit borrowed from a coworker, my new badge clipped to my chest, my laptop waiting at the PODIUMMs. Collins introduced me with crisp authority. This is Ion, the developer of our new logistics system, Quiver. Thanks to his work, Greyline has increased efficiency by nearly 20% in a single week. Polite applause filled the room. My pulse hammered. I stepped forward, clicked the first slide, and began. I spoke of choke points and predictive modeling of throughput and error reduction. But beneath the technical words was a deeper rhythm. I see patterns. I fix problems. I am not useless. When I finished, the room erupted in genuine applause. Executives nodded, investors scribbled notes, and one man clapped me on the shoulder. Brilliant, sir. Absolutely brilliant. Sir, again, the word was becoming real, reshaping me. What I didn't know until later was that Kareem had overheard Ms. Collins inviting my family to the dinner. Bring them, she'd said. Let them see. So when I turned from the podium, there they were, Mom, Maryam, Bilial, and Kareem standing near the back of the room, out of place in borrowed finery. Their eyes were wide, their mouths half open. Mom's gaze darted around, desperate for context. Maryam looked stricken, as though the spotlight had shifted off her crown. Billow gave me a small, astonished smile. And Karinhi just looked calculating, as though trying to fit me into a ledger he hadn't balanced. One of the executives passed by them, shaking my hand. Outstanding work, sir, he said warmly. Mom flinched at the word. Sir, after the dinner, they cornered me in the lobby. What was that? Mom demanded, her voice sharp with confusion. Why didn't you tell us you were doing whatever this is? Never asked. I said evenly. Don't be clever with me, Ion. This show, these people calling you Satit's temporary. Don't get ideas. I looked. Her in the eye, steady for the first time in years. It's not temporary, it's mine. I built it, and they respect me for it. Miriam crossed her arms. So what? You think one little computer trick makes you better than us? I'm still the one getting married, the one everyone talks about. I smiled faintly. They talked about you. Tonight, they talked about me. Her face flushed. Kareem finally spoke. If this system makes money, you'll remember who housed you, fed you, raised you. You owe us, Ion. The old words, the old trap. I straightened. No, I don't owe you. You told me to be grateful you fed me, but let me be clear. I've been feeding myself for a long time. And now I'll be feeding others. You don't get to own that. Silence. Fell, their faces flickered on gore, disbelief, something like fear. Billow broke it with a quiet chuckle. He's right, he said softly. You all treated him like dirt. Can now look. Mom spun on him. Shut up. But it was too late. The shift had happened. The ground had moved. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 4. The first time I felt the weight lift. They had seen me. They couldn't unsee it. And the best part? I hadn't needed to shout or beg or prove myself in their kitchen. The world had done it for me. They had humiliated me at Maryam's engagement. Dinner. But tonight their humiliation was watching strangers call me sir. And it was only the beginning. I used to think life was a cage I'd been born into, the bars painted with the words, "Be grateful we feed you." Every day I rattled those bars, but no one heard. No one cared. But the night of the showcase dinner changed everything. It wasn't the applause, though, that was sweet. It wasn't the executives shaking my hand, though that was validating. It was the moment I turned and saw my family standing in the back of the room, their faces drained of superiority. For once, they weren't the center. They weren't the stars. They were spectators watching me, the one they had mocked, carry the spotlight. And the best part, I didn't even need to rub it in. The silence in their eyes said enough. The days that followed were strange. At home, the balance shifted in small, unsettling ways. Mom didn't say, "Be grateful we feed you." Anymore, she didn't say much of anything at all. She moved through the kitchen with tighter lips, her voice softer when relatives called. Sometimes I caught her staring at me as if she were trying to rewrite me in her mind to reconcile the boy she had scolded with the man strangers had called sir. Maryam avoided me. She threw herself into wedding planning, her voice sharp when she thought I might overshadow her again. "Don't wear that to the reception," she snapped one afternoon when I came home in my new work blazer. "It looks try-hard." I only smiled. Relax, Miriam. I'm not competing with you. But she knew and I knew that the comparison was already there, unspoken but undeniable. Bilal treated me differently too. He started hanging around my room at night, asking about Quiver, about data, about whether he could learn coding. "Do you think I'm too dumb?" he asked one evening, tossing his stress ball up and down. "You're not dumb," I told him. "You're just used to laughing before they laugh at you." "That's not the same thing." He grew quiet. "Maybe I want more, like you." "Then stop waiting for permission," I said. His eyes widened a little, like I'd opened a door he didn't know existed. The real confrontation came a week later at a family dinner with close relatives. Mom, of course, had prepared a feast, determined to remind everyone that Miriam was the jewel of the family. But halfway through the meal, Uncle Bashir looked at me and said, "So, Ion, I hear you're some kind of genius at Greyline now, saving the company money, getting promoted." The table went quiet. All eyes shifted to me. Mom opened her mouth, maybe to minimize it, but I spoke first. "Yes, I developed a system they're using across multiple divisions now. It's been successful." Uncle Bashir whistled. "Ah, mashallah. That's impressive. Your parents must be proud." The silence deepened. Mom's face stiffened. Kareem shifted uncomfortably. Miriam stabbed her fork into her rice. Finally, Mom forced a smile. "Yes. We're proud," she said, but the words tasted bitter in her mouth. For once, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the waiter or the background character. I felt solid, real, undeniable. That night, Mom came to my room. She lingered in the doorway, her hands twisting in her shawl. "You didn't tell me," she said quietly. "You never asked," I replied. She flinched at the words. "Only wanted you to be safe," she murmured. "To follow the paths. That worked for others. I didn't." "I didn't think you could," she trailed off. "Didn't think I could what?" I asked, my voice calm. "Do something like this?" Her eyes were wet, though she tried to blink it away. "Shouldn't have said those things. Out feeding you?" For a moment, I almost softened. Almost, but then I remembered the years of belittlement, the laughter, the sting of humiliation. Forgiveness wasn't impossible, but it wouldn't come cheap. "I don't need an apology," I said evenly. "I just need you to remember this. I was never useless. You just chose not to see me." She nodded, defeated, and left without another word. Miriam never apologized. She clung to her throne, desperate to keep the attention on her upcoming wedding. But the relatives whispered, and I could feel the shift. Where once I was the family embarrassment, now I was the unexpected success story. "Did you hear what Ion's doing at Greyline?" He whispered. "At weddings, at mosque, at grocery stores. That boy is going places." It wasn't revenge. I felt not exactly. It was balance. For years, I had been the shadow. Now, finally, the scales had evened. The day of Miriam's wedding arrived like a storm. The hall glittered with lights, music thundered, guests cheered. Miriam looked radiant, wrapped in golden red, jewels flashing at every turn. But even that day, even with all eyes on her, I felt the shift. When I entered in my tailored suit, a colleague at my side, several guests turned and murmured, "That's him, the one from Greyline, the one who built that system." Respect followed me like a cloak. And when one of the groom's uncles shook my hand and said warmly, "Sir, you must sit with us," I caught the way Mom's lips tightened, the way Miriam's eyes flickered, the way Kareem's jaw clenched. Sir, the word that had once felt like a miracle was now becoming a melody. Now, months later, I look back and realize justice wasn't about humiliating them the way they humiliated me. It wasn't about shouting or proving or demanding they see me differently. Justice was letting the world see me for who I was and forcing them to watch. I don't know if Mom will ever truly change, I don't know if Miriam will ever forgive me for stealing her spotlight, or if Kareem will ever stop calculating what my success is worth to him. But I do know this: I am no longer their shadow. And when I hear the word sir now, whether from a manager, a client, or a stranger, I carry it like armor. Because I remember the boy who was told, "Be grateful we feed you." And I know now without doubt that I am the one who can feed myself. More than that, I can build something that feeds others too. That is my justice. That is my revenge. And that is my freedom. And that was my story. A story of humiliation, betrayal, and the justice I finally claimed for myself. If this journey kept you on the edge of your seat, don't let it end. Here, hit that like button to show your support. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next tale of family conflict, revenge, and redemption. Turn on the bell so you'll be the first to hear the next story when it drops. And if you've ever lived through a moment like mine, share it in the comments below. I read every word, and you never know, your story might just inspire the next video.